If you enjoy stories about relationship betrayal, karma, and sweet revenge, please hit that subscribe button right now. Join our community of revenge seekers who believe in justice and the power of karma. Every like, subscribe, and comment helps this channel grow. And I promise to keep delivering the most satisfying revenge stories that will leave you stunned and wanting more. Now sit back and enjoy today's tale of betrayal and ultimate revenge. I still remember that day like it was yesterday, though nearly 3 years have passed since. The day was supposed to be perfect, our 8th anniversary as a couple. 8 beautiful years with the man I thought was my soulmate, my partner and everything, my future. We had been engaged for almost a year, wedding plans in full swing, and everything in my life felt like it was finally falling into place. My name is Janet, and this is the story of how I discovered my fiancé's betrayal and orchestrated the most satisfying revenge of my life. Mark was everything I had ever wanted in a partner. Successful, charming, attentive. At least that's what I thought. We met in college, both studying business, and while I went into marketing, he pursued finance and quickly climbed the corporate ladder at a prestigious firm. When he proposed on our 7th anniversary with a gorgeous 2-carat diamond ring under the stars at the vineyard where we had our first real date, I felt like the luckiest woman alive. For our 8th anniversary, I had meticulously planned a surprise weekend getaway to the mountains. Mark had mentioned he would be working late that Friday, so my plan was to surprise him at his office with packed bags and whisk him away. I had coordinated with his assistant Jennifer the week before to ensure his schedule would be cleared without his knowledge. She had been oddly hesitant, but eventually agreed. That Friday afternoon, I dressed in his favorite outfit. A deep burgundy dress that hugged my curves perfectly, paired with the diamond earrings he had given me for Christmas. I wanted everything to be perfect. With our bags packed in my car and a bottle of his favorite whiskey wrapped alongside a custom engraved watch I had saved months for, I headed to his downtown office. The spring air held that perfect crisp quality as I walked through the lobby of his building, nodding to the security guard who recognized me from previous visits. "Evening, Miss Janet. Looking lovely today," he said with a friendly smile. "Thank you, Richard. Special occasion," I replied, unable to contain my excitement. I took the elevator to the 34th floor, my stomach fluttering with anticipation. The offices were quiet as expected on a Friday evening, with most employees having left for the weekend. As I approached Mark's corner office, I noticed the lights were dimmed, but not off. Perfect, he was still there. What happened next plays in my mind like a slow-motion sequence from a tragedy film. I quietly opened his office door, ready to surprise him with "Happy Anniversary" on my lips. Instead, the words died in my throat. There was Mark, my fiancé of nearly a year, my partner of 8 years, with a woman perched on his desk. They were locked in an intimate embrace that left no question about the nature of their relationship. Papers were scattered on the floor, her blouse was unbuttoned, and his hands were places they should never have been except with me. The bottle of whiskey slipped from my grasp and shattered on the hardwood floor. The sound was like a gunshot in the quiet office. They sprang apart, and Mark's face transformed from passion to horror in an instant. "Janet, what are you?" The woman, beautiful, younger, with perfectly highlighted blonde hair, quickly began buttoning her blouse, her face flushed with what I could not tell was embarrassment or exertion. "Janet, I can explain," Mark stammered, straightening his tie. "This isn't what it looks like." The oldest line in the book. I stood there, paralyzed, unable to process the scene before me. The woman gathered her things, mumbling apologies, and rushed past me out the door. I hardly noticed her. My eyes were fixed on Mark, searching his face for any trace of the man I thought I knew. 8 years, I whispered, my voice surprisingly steady despite the earthquake happening inside me. 8 years, Mark. "Baby, please." He approached me cautiously, as if I were a wild animal that might either flee or attack. "Miranda is just a colleague. We were working late, things got a little out of hand, but it's not serious. It's the first time, I swear." I looked down at the shattered glass, amber liquid seeping across the floor like blood. The symbolism was not lost on me. Our relationship, my trust, my future, all shattered in an instant. "What are you even doing here?" he asked, his tone shifting slightly toward annoyance, which only fueled the rage building inside me. "It's our anniversary. I said flatly. I planned a surprise weekend. Your assistant helped me clear your schedule. His face fell. He had forgotten. Of course he had forgotten. God, Janet, I'm so sorry. With the Peterson account and everything. He reached for me, but I stepped back. Don't, I said, raising my hand. Just don't touch me. I turned to leave, my mind surprisingly clear despite the chaos. As I reached the door, I paused and removed my engagement ring, placing it gently on his assistant's empty desk. Janet, wait. Please, let's talk about this. Mark called after me, panic rising in his voice. I stopped but didn't turn around. Is she the only one? I asked, needing to know the full extent of his betrayal. His hesitation was answer enough. I walked out without another word, my heart shattering with every step. The next few weeks passed in a blur of pain, anger, and humiliation. I moved out of our shared apartment while Mark bombarded me with calls, texts, and emails, all pleading for forgiveness, claiming it was just a mistake, and that none of them meant anything. Each message revealed more about his infidelity than he probably intended. It had not been just Miranda. There had been others. Many others. My friends rallied around me, offering shoulders to cry on and plenty of wine to drown my sorrows. My sister wanted to slash his tires. My brother threatened to have a conversation with Mark that would involve significantly fewer words and more fists. I appreciated their support but knew that traditional revenge tactics would not satisfy the hollow ache in my chest. No, I needed something more significant. Something that would make Mark understand exactly what he had thrown away, and what it felt like to have your future yanked out from under you. It was during this dark period that I discovered the full extent of Mark's deception. Miranda was not just a colleague. She was a junior partner he had been grooming both professionally and personally for nearly a year. The whispers around the office, fed to me by Jennifer, his assistant, who had apparently been uncomfortable with his behavior for some time, suggested this was a pattern. Mark would mentor promising young women, seduce them with his charm and promises of career advancement, use them for his pleasure and ego, then discard them when they became too attached or demanding. But the real kicker came 2 months after our breakup. I was having coffee with Jennifer, who had quit her position as Mark's assistant, and was now working for a competing firm. Over lattes, she revealed something that made my blood run cold. I probably shouldn't tell you this, she said, hesitating. But I always thought you deserved better than him. Tell me what? I asked, my stomach knotting with dread. Mark has a girlfriend in Chicago. A serious one. Her name is Elise. From what I gathered from his calendar and calls, they've been together for about 3 years. He visits her when he says he's on business trips there. The coffee turned bitter in my mouth. 3 years. While we were together. While we were living together. While he was proposing to me. How do you know this? I managed to ask. I've booked their romantic weekends. I've ordered flowers for her birthday with his specific instructions. Once I had to coordinate getting a key to his Chicago condo when she locked herself out. Jennifer looked genuinely remorseful. I wanted to tell you so many times, but he was your boss. I finished for her. I could not blame her for her silence, though a small part of me wished she had found a way to warn me. Does she know about me? I asked, already suspecting the answer. Jennifer shook her head. I don't think so. He's very careful. Different phones, separate email accounts. When he's with her, he tells her he cannot be reached because he's in meetings or traveling to places with bad reception. When he's with you, he tells her the same. A double life. The man I had planned to marry had been living a complete double life. That night, alone in my new apartment, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes and the shattered pieces of my former life, something shifted inside me. The tears dried up. The ache in my chest crystallized into something harder, colder, more focused. Mark had not just cheated on me with random women. He had constructed an entire parallel relationship. He had looked me in the eyes every day for years and lied. He had asked me to marry him while committed to another woman. That was when I decided. Traditional revenge would not be enough. I needed to dismantle his carefully constructed house of cards in the most public, most devastating way possible. And I needed Elise as an ally. Finding Elise was surprisingly easy in the age of social media. Mark had been careful, but not careful enough. Once I had her full name from Jennifer, I was able to locate her on Instagram. Elise Harrington, pharmaceutical sales representative, Chicago resident, avid yoga practitioner, and food enthusiast. Beautiful, accomplished, and completely unaware that she was dating a man engaged to someone else. I debated for weeks about how to approach her. A direct message seemed too abrupt. A phone call too intrusive. I needed to establish trust, to make sure she knew I was not some jealous ex making up stories. Finally, I decided on an email with evidence attached. I compiled screenshots of our life together. Photos of our engagement, our apartment, family holiday gatherings. I included a time-stamped photo of Mark and me at his company Christmas party, which according to Jennifer's intelligence, was during a period he had told Elise he was on a business trip to London. I drafted and redrafted the email, wanting to strike the perfect tone. Not accusatory toward her, not vengeful, just one woman reaching out to another who deserved the truth. Dear Elise, the email began, you don't know me, but we have something significant in common. My name is Janet Mitchell, and until 2 months ago, I was engaged to Mark Stevens, who I believe is also in a relationship with you. I sent the email on a Sunday evening, knowing from social media patterns that Elise was usually home on Sunday nights. Then I waited, my heart pounding, wondering if I had done the right thing, or if I had just opened myself up to more pain. Her response came 3 hours later. It was brief. I need to verify this. Can we video chat? That night, Elise and I had a 4-hour conversation that changed everything. She had been with Mark for just over 3 years, having met him during a pharmaceutical conference in Chicago where he was a guest speaker. He had pursued her relentlessly, flying to Chicago whenever he could. She had thought it was romantic, his dedication to maintaining a long-distance relationship. He had a key to her apartment. They had discussed marriage, children. He had met her parents. As we talked, comparing timelines and stories, the full picture of Mark's deception emerged. He had constructed elaborate lies to maintain relationships with both of us, using his business travel as cover. When he was with me in our shared apartment in Boston, he told Elise he was traveling for work. When he was with her in Chicago, he told me the same. I could not believe it at first, Elise admitted, her eyes red from crying. But the evidence, the dates, it all fits. And honestly, there were always things that did not quite add up. Calls he would not take around me. Weekends he was suddenly unavailable. I just trusted him. So did I said quietly. For 8 years. By the end of our conversation, something remarkable had happened. Instead of 2 women devastated by betrayal, we had become allies united by a common cause, making Mark face the consequences of his actions. What do you want to do? Elise asked, a new determination in her voice. I want him to feel what we're feeling, I replied. I want him to lose everything he values in one moment, just like we did. I'm in, she said without hesitation. Whatever you're planning, I want to help. That conversation marked the beginning of what would become the most elaborately planned revenge of my life. Over the next several months, Elise and I constructed our plan carefully. We maintained our separate lives. Me in Boston rebuilding my career and social circle, her in Chicago doing the same, but we spoke almost daily, comparing notes and refining our strategy. Mark had tried repeatedly to reconcile with me, his attempts growing more desperate as I maintained my distance. I had not told him I knew about Elise. Instead, I strategically kept him on the hook, suggesting that perhaps, with time and couples counseling, I might consider giving him another chance. It was a performance that required every ounce of acting ability I possessed, but the thought of the endgame kept me committed. Meanwhile, Elise was playing a similar game in Chicago. She had confronted Mark about some concerns she had about their relationship, but had stopped short of revealing she knew about me. Like me, she had suggested they needed time but that reconciliation might be possible. Mark, the consummate manipulator, thought he was managing both situations. In reality, he was walking into our trap. The opportunity for our revenge came 6 months later when Mark's firm announced he would be receiving a prestigious industry award at their annual gala. A black tie affair attended by everyone who was anyone in the financial world. His recent promotion to senior partner would also be celebrated. According to Jennifer, who still had contacts at the firm, Mark had been boasting about the recognition for weeks. This would be his moment of glory, and the perfect stage for his downfall. Using my marketing background, I created a simple but devastating plan. Elise would fly to Boston for the weekend of the gala. Mark, thinking I was out of town visiting family, had invited neither of us to attend the event with him. A convenient way to keep his two lives separate. But we had other ideas. The night of the gala arrived. Mark had been sending me excited texts all day about the award, lamenting that I could not be there but promising to celebrate with me when I returned from my family visit. Little did he know I was in a hotel room across from the venue, getting ready alongside Elise, who had flown in that morning. We had both selected stunning dresses, she in midnight blue, me in emerald green. As we helped each other with zippers and jewelry, our conversation was surprisingly light, even punctuated with laughter. There was something cathartic about preparing for battle together. "Are you ready for this?" Elise asked as we made final adjustments in the mirror. "I've been ready for 6 months," I replied, applying a final coat of the red lipstick Mark had always loved. We arrived at the gala separately. I went in first, using my connections with Jennifer to secure an invitation. I strategically positioned myself at a table near the back, partially obscured by a large floral arrangement. I could see the stage perfectly, but someone scanning the room casually would not immediately notice me. Elise arrived 20 minutes later, taking a position at the bar with clear sightlines to both the stage and my table. Our timing had to be perfect. I watched Mark work the room, shaking hands, accepting congratulations, completely unaware of what was coming. He looked handsome in his tuxedo, I had to admit that. For a brief moment, seeing him in the setting where he thrived, I felt a pang of what might have been. But then I remembered the look on his face when I caught him with Miranda, the casual way he had conducted a 3-year relationship behind my back, and my resolve hardened. The awards portion of the evening began. Several minor recognitions were given out, building toward the major award Mark would receive. Finally, the CEO of the firm approached the podium. "Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to present our final award of the evening, the Morrison Excellence in Financial Leadership Award. This year's recipient has demonstrated exceptional client management, unprecedented portfolio growth, and exemplary leadership within the firm. Please join me in congratulating our newest senior partner, Mark Stevens." The room erupted in applause as Mark made his way to the stage, beaming with pride. He shook the CEO's hand, accepted the crystal trophy, and stepped to the microphone. "Thank you all so much for this incredible honor," he began, his voice confident and smooth. "This recognition means the world to me, and I would not be standing here without the support of my colleagues, my clients, and of course my loved ones." That was my cue. I stood up from my table and began walking slowly toward the stage. From the corner of my eye, I could see Elise doing the same from the opposite side of the room. Mark continued his speech, not yet noticing the movement in the audience. "I've always believed that integrity is the cornerstone of success in this business. Trust is everything, both with clients and in personal relationships." The irony of his words nearly made me laugh out loud. By now, people at the tables near the front had noticed us approaching and began to whisper. Mark, sensing something was happening, paused briefly, his eyes scanning the crowd. When he saw me, his face registered confusion, then alarm. "Janet? What are you doing here? I thought you were visiting your—" His words died as his eyes locked on Elise, approaching from the other side. The blood drained from his face so dramatically that for a moment I thought he might faint. Elise and I reached the stage at the same time, positioned on either side of the steps leading up to the podium. Mark stood frozen, the award clutched in his hands, his mouth opening and closing with no sound coming out. "Hello, Mark," I said, my voice clear and steady. "Please don't stop your speech. You were talking about integrity and trust. I find that fascinating." "As do I," Elise added, her voice equally composed. "Especially the part about loved ones. In plural. How appropriate." The room had gone completely silent. Every eye was on the three of us. The man on stage with his award and the two women flanking him like avenging angels. I don't understand what's happening, the CEO said, stepping forward with a confused expression. Allow me to clarify, I said, addressing the room while keeping my eyes fixed on Mark. My name is Janet Mitchell. Until 6 months ago, I was engaged to Mark Stevens after being in a relationship with him for 8 years. And I'm Elise Harrington, my ally continued seamlessly. I've been in a relationship with Mark for over 3 years. He has a key to my apartment in Chicago. He's met my parents. We've discussed marriage. All while he was engaged to Janet. The murmurs in the crowd grew louder. Someone gasped audibly. The CEO took a step away from Mark, physically distancing himself from the unfolding scandal. I don't know what these women are talking about, Mark finally managed, his voice strained and higher than usual. This is some kind of misunderstanding. Is it a misunderstanding that you proposed to me with this ring? I pulled the engagement ring from my clutch. I had retrieved it from his assistant's desk before leaving that night, while maintaining a separate home and relationship in Chicago. Is it a misunderstanding that you spent Christmas Eve with my family last year? Elise added. Telling Janet you were at a conference in San Francisco? Mark's eyes darted around the room like a cornered animal's. I could see him calculating, trying to find a way out, a narrative that would save him. But there was none. Mark, I said, softening my voice slightly. Would you like to tell everyone about Miranda from the office? Or Jennifer's replacement, Caroline? Or should Elise and I continue comparing notes on the exact dates and times of your business trips over the past 3 years? That was when Mark's professional mask finally cracked completely. You did not have to do it like this, he hissed at me, his charming facade replaced by ugly anger. You wanted to humiliate me. No, Mark, I replied calmly. You humiliated yourself. We're just making sure everyone knows who you really are. I turned to address the stunned audience, many of whom were Mark's colleagues and clients. For those of you who work with Mark, who trust him with your money and your confidential information, I suggest you consider this. If he could maintain elaborate lies to the women who loved him for years, what might he be hiding from you? The CEO had recovered enough to step back to the microphone. I think we should take a brief recess, he announced, his professional demeanor barely concealing his shock and anger. As security personnel approached to escort us out, Elise and I exchanged glances. Our work was done. We turned and walked out of the ballroom together, heads held high, leaving Mark on stage still clutching his award, his career and reputation in tatters around him. Outside in the cool night air, Elise and I hugged tightly. 6 months of planning, of restraining our anger, of strategic patience. All of it had led to this moment of perfect justice. Do you think it was enough? Elise asked as we walked away from the venue. I thought about Mark's face when he saw us both, the way his carefully constructed world collapsed in an instant. Yes, I said. It was exactly enough. The aftermath was everything we had hoped for. Mark was asked to take a leave of absence from his firm while they conducted an ethics review. Several clients, concerned about his character and judgment, transferred their accounts to other advisors. The industry award was rescinded. His reputation, the thing he valued above all else, was in ruins. As for Elise and me, we maintained our friendship. There's a special bond that forms between women who have been deceived by the same man, and who choose to rise above it together. We meet twice a year, once in Boston, once in Chicago, to celebrate our freedom and solidarity. I won't pretend the healing was immediate or easy. Trust does not come naturally to me anymore. But 3 years later, I'm in a new relationship with a man who understands my past and proves his honesty in small ways every day. The engagement ring he offered is smaller than Mark's was, but it symbolizes something genuine and true, which makes it infinitely more valuable. Sometimes I think about that night at the gala, about the look on Mark's face when he realized his worlds were colliding. It was not just about revenge, although the satisfaction was undeniable. It was about reclaiming our power, refusing to be victims, and ensuring that the truth, however painful, was finally brought to light. They say living well is the best revenge. I disagree. The best revenge is making sure that those who betray others face the consequences of their actions publicly and completely. It's ensuring that manipulators and liars cannot simply move on to hurt someone else. It's standing in your truth and refusing to be silenced. And sometimes, the best revenge is finding an unexpected ally in the person who, in another life, might have been your enemy. Mark taught me that betrayal can break your heart. But Elise showed me that solidarity can help put it back together. As I sit here today, watching the sunset from my new apartment with my new life stretching before me, I feel nothing but gratitude. Not for what Mark did. I will never be grateful for that pain, but for the strength I found in its aftermath. For the woman I became when my worst fears came true and I survived anyway. That's the thing about betrayal. It can destroy you, or it can transform you. The choice, as I learned, is entirely yours. If you enjoyed this story of sweet revenge, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Revenge Janet for more tales of justice served. Remember to hit that notification bell so you never miss a new upload. Share this video with someone who appreciates a good karma story. And let me know in the comments if you've ever experienced something similar, or what you would have done in my situation. Until next time, remember that karma may be patient, but she always collects her debts.